7, engagement with Tangata Whenua, including Maori committee roles and functions, and invite Joyce Ann up to the front. Kia ora, welcome.
Tēnā rā koutou katoa, ngā mihi kia koutou. This report here is in response to the Council resolution on the 31st of August, and it requests a staff report to provide the recommendations of the Māori Committee for consideration today, as well as recognising the context of the proposed governance structure, which was presented for all those committees going forward during the 2016-19 Triennium. And clearly this paper looks to a recommendation that the Māori Committee be re-established after the local elections take place. Within the context there, you'll see the Māori Committee, so you have the whakapapa, how it was originated and also been with us for nearly 20 years so. Ultimately, in 2015, the RPC, the Hawke's Bay Regional Planning Committee Act, has also provided Tangata Whenua voice. And in essence, and taking into account the chair of the Māori committees here, no mai hara mai te kōrero e Mike, there has been conversations as to the role of the Māori committee as we currently have this act in place. So in order to address that, Tangata Whenua in their context have met on a number of occasions. On the 4th of July, it was the Māori Committee and the RPC Tangata Whenua members to look at what their roles were, how they service our Māori community as well as the Council itself. This was followed by another meeting on the 12th of September to which the Māori Committee Chair, Mike Mohi, requested that all Māori committee members come together to actually look at their work program per se. The review of the charter has been part of the work program and the expectation going forward. So at that meeting, it was agreed that there will be a review of the 2011 charter and aligning it with within themselves, their purpose. Secondly, the discussion of the membership and the criteria, but in context as a Māori committee and advisory board, they will go back to the Tai Whenua themselves as to their membership. There will be an election of the chair to be conducted at the first Māori committee meeting as well. Continuing there, I suppose it's the strengthening of the relationship between the Māori committee and the RPC Tangata Whenua. So that's been the commitment going forward. The other context on next steps, number 9, also looks at how we sit as the staff of the council, what our understanding of our work program, how we work with Māori as a key partner versus a stakeholder, how we recognise the benefits of working in partnership with Māori, and within that we also had a staff survey to see where our staff see themselves in relation, or at least those legislative obligations, followed by their own working in good faith. I think we've called it there, James. So this paper asks of the council members to view those contexts of the Māori Committee going forward, about the charter being reviewed, recognising the strengthening of the RPC Tangata Whenua members and the Māori Committee, as well as providing you at the next council meeting, the incoming council, with a report of where the work program stock take that we took, what that looks like, as well as the staff survey. So that's clear what this report is. Any kōrero to that, Mike?
Thank you for this paper. I think this paper is very, very well written, as were a couple of papers in a similar vein out to the Māori members over the last 2 weeks. So just like to compliment you on that. There has been a little bit of to and fro between the two committees, the Regional Planning Committee Māori members and the Regional Planning and the Standing Committee, as to clarification of the roles. There's no doubt about it that a lot of the Māori members from the Regional Planning Committee didn't understand the roles of the Standing Committee. I spoke to them last Tuesday before the full meeting the next day, which the councillors came to, and I said they were considered the Matua committee, which is the senior committee, and the standing committee, which I chair, is very much a committee that comes from the 4 Tai Whenua. It's an advisory committee, and I also reminded them that the Maori committee is there at the behest of the council. Every 3 years, the council decide whether they want that committee to carry on. So part of this exercise that Joyce Ann is going through is to clarify the roles of the standing committee, and that will be put to the new council sometime probably in October or November. Also, there was 1 or 2 members of the Regional Planning Committee that thought that they could actually switch the Maori Committee off. And as I said, it explained to them it actually wasn't their decision. One thing that did come up with the, in particular, was the members for the Ahuriri Tai Whenua. Now, that is actually, that particular Tai Whenua has sort of faded away through a number of circumstances, and the role was taken over by the treaty group, Mana Ahuriri. And one of the new treaty groups came along and said, look, we want to be part of the Maori Committee. And so I said, well, rather going to the council and expecting them to referee a fight and start another Maori war, probably better just going behind the palisades and having a little friendly talk with the Mana Ahuriri people. So that's on the cards. So that's basically where it is. We did discuss the fact that we went to Waipukurau and to Wairoa for 2 of the meetings as a pilot for this year, and if indeed the new committee the new councillors decide to carry on with the Maori Committee, they would be asked if we could actually have 2 meetings in Central Hawke's Bay and 2 in Wairoa, because those meetings sort of really brought out the very low-key Tangata Whenua concerns in those areas, as an example. So, any questions of me before I hand it back?
My very first council meeting, Mr. Mohi, I got called up by you for saying Wairoa, so it's Wairoa. Yeah, okay. Councillor Scott.
Mr. Chairman, and I'd just like some clarification around the proposal. Is it only Mana Ahuriri who may be elected under a difference from the prescribed Maori executive, Maori kaumātua, those various things, or is there a more general approach to the election of the new members to this committee, which will take place before the Charter? I'll just go back to the last Maori committee meeting.
No, it was only the Napier, the Ahuriri ones that were questioning the selection process. And in fact, the 2 out of the 3 have already come back and said who their members would be.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through Joyce Ann, thanks for your paper. Now, I'm just a bit confused with the recommendations number 4. Agrees that a review of the terms of reference, including roles and responsibilities of the Maori Committee, will be undertaken following completion of the Charter review. Whose terms of reference are you referring to there?
So the Maori Committee.
The Maori Committee?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between terms of reference and the Charter?
So the Charter itself has the high-level activities, looking at specifically, they're going to look at the waihi tapu in there, but it doesn't actually stipulate what the roles and the responsibilities. Part of that, and again this was part of our workshop on the 12th of September, was recognising in order for the Māori Committee to be effective for themselves and for us all, there needs to be a strong work program. And part of that work program includes accountability back. So how do we know what members are bringing to the table on behalf of their constituents, with their Māori communities? So the terms of reference will allow that their role clarity, which also will help in the criteria and perhaps the nomination of members.
All right. So in this, there's a presumption that or dependent on the next council, the Maori committee will continue, and it will sit alongside or be there with the regional planning committee, but there will be some relationships defined. Is that right?
Yes, and we've been working with communications here with Drew, and what we've developed is a diagram, and it's exactly what Mike was talking about, the matua context of the policy, the parent. So the RPC has that policy role, and then we have the Māori committee who have that connectiveness back to the hapu, to the marae. So there is that engagement, but not confusing, where the roles of each.
Okay, and where in its advisory role, who is the Maori committee going to be giving advice to? The council or the plan committee or both?
And this, again, working through our diagram, and we're having conversations with the RPC Tangata Whenua members, we see it as a sort of a circle in which there is a connectiveness. So in essence, the advisory will come back to us as council, but ultimately it does allow it to go to the Tangata Whenua representatives to say, this is the issue that's happening in the rohe that you represent. So it's an opportunity for Māori voice to work across.
Mr Chair, further explanation? Yes. What has been talked about is that, as you know, the standing committees, there's two from the Māori committee sit there with voting rights. What has been talked about between the two chairs is perhaps just one from the Maori committee going on the standing committees and one from the regional planning committee. And also there was, how can we put this politely, a little bit of elbow jolting in terms of the co-chair of the regional planning committee, perhaps sitting also at the full council meeting. And when I say elbow jolting, rather than jolting one away, perhaps adding an extra, the co-chair as well as ex officio on the committees. So those were suggestions that were coming into this paper to go before the committee.
So, but if the RPC chair sits around the council, it'd sit in the same capacity as you do.
Yeah, that's up. Obviously, to come back to the new committee, that was the things that's been discussed.
It's not a voting position, though.
No.
Thank you. Thanks, Joyce Ann. And Mike, I look forward to the ongoing engagement, especially when you come down into the regions. It's a process that I thoroughly enjoyed during this last term. My question to you, Liz, is that we have some statutory and some non-statutory obligations here. So when will we actually look at the financial side of what's coming forward?
Councillor, I'm really glad you raised that, because it was something I was thinking, how am I going to get this into this conversation? If you look at paragraph 10 in this paper, I don't have my phone. If you look at paragraph 10 in this paper, and there's no consequential recommendations, but it really is signalling to the council the potential resourcing requirements that are going to be needed if we're going to do this engagement properly. And I think it's definitely a key issue for the next term of council, to look at how well we're resourced. We're lucky enough to have Joyce Ann join us as a policy planner, but in fact she's spending all her time really on Tangata Whenua engagement, and we could have probably 3 or 4 of her, you know, so, or actually no, maybe not. So it's a very important issue for the next council to look at how it's going to. I think it's a long-term plan matter, which is why I say the next council. I think we probably will have to kind of stumble along as we are, until that long-term plan. But it's one of the, for us, I think probably, you know, when we look at what are the issues facing the next council, water and iwi engagement will be the top 2. So yeah, there's definitely some resourcing implications.
Councillor Barker.
Yes, thank you for the paper. Can I just, I had 2 questions. Why have you in 3.1 talked about the review of the efficacy rather than just review. It seems to me that if you have the word efficacy in the recommendation, it seems to carry an implication that things aren't quite right. And same with 3.2, the actions to improve the work of, it seems to also carry an implication that it's not quite right. I would be happy with a recommendation without those two words in it. I don't think they're necessary, but I'd just like your comments on them.
Councillor, I'll answer that one. Look, in terms of the efficacy, it's clear that the composition of the committee will bring in a broader or a narrower set of perspectives. It'll bring in a broader or narrow set of skills. The composition will have an impact on how effective the committee is, and rather than just looking at the composition without any eye to any purpose for looking at the composition, we are suggesting that we want this committee to be as effective as it possibly can in representing the interests of Tangata Whenua. So the lens with which we're looking at that composition is efficacy. Similarly, around the work between the Māori Committee and the Regional Planning Committee, the intention was not to say that this is in any way dysfunctional. It's rather the tone of the paper is that this is a work in progress. The Regional Planning Committee is a growing and evolving institution, and so there is the opportunity to continue to enhance and improve the way in which the two are working together. So the words chosen here were not to indicate any deficit, rather to give a sense that we'll be doing this with a view to making the full set of arrangements work as effectively as possible.
Thank you. My second question is that it seems to me that the one element missing here is to review the relationship of the Māori Committee to the Council. I just, because there is you're looking at it going across the way between the Māori Committee and the Regional Planning Committee, but I would have thought the key relationship here is between the Māori Committee and the Council. And also I would have thought the other part of this, which we'd be looking to do, is to have this paper look at how we can improve this Council's relationship with Tangata Whenua. One of the tools we have is the Māori Committee. One of the other one we have is the Regional Planning Committee. But surely the objective of this shouldn't be about trying to just get entities or structures to work better together. It's about trying to get this Council's outreach and the in-reach from Tangata Whenua to Council to be improved. I think we're talking about here the means rather than the end. I just wonder whether it's worthwhile broadening that.
So Councillor, that was the purpose of within the paper, noting the work being undertaken to understand the broader competency and capacity of Council staff. We see this as very much a critical part of the package, if you like, of effort by the Council to engage. So I concur with your observation and your point, and can I reassure you that the work coming back to the incoming Council is a holistic picture. It is the staff, it is the governance, it is the resourcing, it's all of that, and how that meets our statutory obligations as well as our non-statutory aspirations that we have as an organisation. So if I can just assure you that that was the purpose of including that within the paper. It will come as a complete package, and I certainly take your point that we want to also focus on the Māori Committee's relationship with Council as well. No problem with expanding that out or ensuring that that will be part of the report back.
Well, the resolution doesn't say that to me. That's all I said. You've said that to me. I accept that as an intention, but I'd like it to say it to me in the resolution.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, Councillor Barker's dead right, but we just wanted to make sure that at the ground level, both Māori committees knew what their roles were, and there was no sniping, and that came a little bit about. I might as well mention it with the emails that went around with the selection of being on the panel for the CEO. So we wanted to make sure we get our relationships right with one another, and then be available for the new committee.
You happy to move? Okay. You happy to second? Do Māori Committee members, very appropriate. You wish to speak?
I do wish to speak. I think, like Mr. Moore here, I think it's a very good paper. Well done. As everyone's aware, I'm a very strong advocate for the Māori Committee. are working alongside the council and the RPC. I think they do two different things, and I think their people come from two different areas of Maoridom, and it's very good that the various Tai Whenuas. It's a shame that doesn't work in Mana Haruri, but it certainly works everywhere else, that the Tai Whenuas elect their people to come to the Maori committee. And since I've been in council for the last 3 years, I have greatly enjoyed that committee. It's one of my favourites, and a lot of really good stuff and a really good discussion, grassroots discussion, comes from those committees. And we especially, I missed the one in Wairoa because I put it wrong in my diary, but I hear that was very good. But the meeting in Central Hawke's Bay was really quite sensational, and I look forward to us, if I'm back here, doing that over the next 3 years, going out to the regions.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I think this report is very timely. I think one of the things, and I've previous speaker, I've thoroughly enjoyed the time that I've had on the committee, but sometimes I think there's been a confusion about the roles, and I think that getting those roles clarified is really important. For the members and also from the council here, knowing exactly who they're speaking for and what their roles are. I think it cements into place the partnership that we have with Maori in this area. I think that the Maori are going to become increasingly important, have an increasingly important role. I think we all know that in the years to come. The role that we as the Hawke's Bay Regional Council have with Māori is going to be really important. They are part of the people of Hawke's Bay Regional Council representing the whole of the area, so it's important that there's that dialogue. I've always found that their views are really an integral part of the decision making that happens around this particular table. I just want to recognise the staff, Joyce and you, and yes, we could clone you. I think we need to have a few more. The resourcing, I think, of the Māori committee is going to be a bit of a challenge to the next council, and I think we need to put resources in there. And I've valued my time on the Māori committee, and I just want to thank Mike too for everything that he does, and particularly the advice that he's given. I think going out to the regions, going out to the areas up north and down south, I think is an excellent idea, and I hope that continues in the next term.
Further speakers who wish to speak? Mr. Moy?
No, and just to those councillors, Graham, Pipe and Barker, that were members of the Maori Committee, thank you very much. And also 15 years ago when I came to the Māori Standing Committee, Christine is one of the All Black Originals. And it's all a little bit sad to see that, with Christine in particular, that it won't be coming to the meetings anymore. Hopefully she'll be at the back rustling paper. But thank you to those three official council members. It was great having you there. Just as a side, we had Councillor Rem as well when she was on the committee for 2 years. She loved it so much that she used to move motions and all sorts of things which were a little bit off course, but nobody minded.
Well, you've just opened the door, what I was going to say, because I'll never forget that meeting where you felt she was going to take us in a different direction, so you put the motion in Māori. And we got on to the next item, and she goes, where's the motion? Mike had already dealt with it. Very, very funny. You learn a lot in these committees. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, and I support this paper, and I'm very pleased to see that it has come back to us now. I think at this stage of things, the Regional Plan Committee has very defined terms of its, under the Act that set it up, that it was in response to cultural redress, giving co-governance over the natural resources. So it's got a specific purpose. The Māori Committee has a much different focus, and a totally wider engagement purpose there, and I think that both of them contribute much to the council's ability to meet its statutory obligations as to regard to working with Tangata Whenua. So I'm very pleased to see this recommendation, and I would actually, if the next council we do find there's an overlap of membership, then Maori will have decided how they want their representative to be, and I think it's up to them to decide, not for council to impose that. So I'm pleased to see that these options are here, and that ability for them to decide how much they want the same people sitting on both committees will be up to their own members through their appointment processes. I would like to acknowledge over the 15 years the work of that committee. I was on that committee for quite some time, and I did help draft the last charter. So it's time that was updated, and I do look forward to what comes back in the terms of where that charter will go in the future. But I would like to thank that committee for all it has shared with me in the past and the way it has opened my eyes to the issues. So I've learned a lot from that committee, and I really want to say both to Heitia Hiha, my first chairman of that committee, and to Mr Mark Mohi, that a very large thanks for me too for sharing so openly with me.
No further speakers you wish to sum up? I'll put the motion, then all those in favour please say aye. Contrary, no. Thank you. Kia ora. Hana. Okay, I think we've probably get through the last decision item before lunch, so I'll hand it over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Can I please just with your indulgence, make a change to recommendation 3, and that's because the item number 2.9 and 2.10, which is the Tenders Committee and the Regional Planning Committee, the minutes have not yet been finalised or finalised, so we'd like to move those into the recommendation 3. So it will be the minutes of the Tenders Committee, the Regional Planning Committee, and today's council meeting, please.
Technical question. I wasn't at the Tenders Committee meeting. No. You happy to sign that?
I would like to ask another question because I want to make another paper.
Well, the issue I have is I wasn't actually at the Tenders Committee meeting, so for me to sign the minutes off is actually going to be problematic, I would have thought. So the deputy could sign them off. Okay, that's fine. But so you want 2.9, 2.10 move into the...
Well, it's basically just saying that they will be the same processes as gone in under number 2, but it's once they're finalised, and then haven't been finalised. So it's just really to be quite clear and open about what has been finalised and what hasn't. Please.
You've got a technical question then.
The hearings, Mr Chairman, I have talked to the CEO about rewriting that as a hearing report, which it should be, for clarity for the next council. At the moment, it's only a minute of the meeting. So I would ask that one, subject to that hearing report, needs to be also considered under that.
Okay, well, the CEO will sort all this out at the end. Councillor Barker?
Yeah, I just have a question as to the process we're doing here. It seems we are delegating this, the signing off these minutes, clearly delegating people, but I'm asking, I want to know the question is, why do we need to? Why couldn't each of the minutes for these meetings which have been completed come before this council meeting, and this council meeting sign off on the minutes? Because all of the players are here, rather than do it this way. It seems to me to be a more open and transparent way of doing it, rather than delegating it to the chair and the chief executive and the etc.
Through you, Mr Chair, because that is what the standing order states, is that that's how it's going to be done.
Well, if that's what the standing order says, I think we should, at the next year, consider a change. Because I just think it's more sensible, if they're done, to come to this committee, the council meeting, we all approve them all, so everyone knows what we've done.
Okay, Mr Moy.
So the first Maori committee meeting is until November. the question is, do I come to the 26th of October council meeting, or am I already redundant?
Yeah, he's just described it. DCM.
I look up. Probably we'll have to get back to you on that. My view would be that there won't be a chair of the Maori Standing Committee on the 26th of October.
Haven't we got another meeting, though, of this council, that extraordinary meeting? Can we not bring those minutes to that meeting?
It conflicts with standing orders. A small level of comfort, small though it may be, is the confirmed minutes will go up on the website, correct? Yeah. Any other questions around in relation to this paper?
Just the wording of the recommendation in 3. Am I understanding it should be changed to the chairman or, where appropriate, the deputy chairman?
Yep. Yes.
And the addition under 3 of the hearing report, and the minutes should then reflect that hearing report.
So in addition to that recommendation, which becomes quite wordy, is hearings, or the hearing report, tenders committee minutes and regional planning committee minutes. Yeah. Sure.
Because, like Councillor Barker, I bought all the minutes. I thought we were signing them off. So how does it work? Do we all go and sit with Leanne at lunch, or the chairman of the different committees to sign them?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'll make copies of each of those available for you to sign and date. And in that, when you're reviewing them, normally would make changes to the unconfirmed, but we'll just get you to note any changes on that hard copy.
Okay. Is the mechanics sorted out? Someone happy to move the motion with the change to 3? You happy to move that, Councillor Scott? Yeah. Seconder for that? I'm happy to second it. You wish to speak? I'm okay. Any other speakers? Put the motion then. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? Carried. Lunchtime. See you back here at...
Can I ask a question before we go to lunch?
1 o'clock, absolutely.
I missed it. I had noted it, but when we went to the last one, is on item 17. I noticed that the item 17, the report is authored by Liz Lambert and approved by Liz Lambert. I wonder if the council members can have the correspondence trail between Liz Lambert and Liz Lambert as to how she got the approval, the amendments and the adaptations.
That will be...
So are you suggesting I talk to myself?
Could be...
Says here you do.
a lengthy...
I've got it officially approved here.
It was a lengthy transaction, Councillor. Back at 1
It's
o'clock.
official. You do talk to yourself.